All right, welcome into 5 on It. This is an occasional NBA show that Brian and I occasionally get around to, but we're going to start getting around to it more often. You can find it on the NBA on 5 Reasons Sports feed, where, by the way, Matt and me, not Matt, Major, I'm sorry, Matt and Adele have been putting up stuff regularly without even telling me. So hopefully you're subscribed to the feed and you get all their draft content, since that seems to be all that anybody cares about these days. This show, you can find Brian Fonseca at Brian Fonseca NBA. Oh, excuse me, not NBA. It's what it should be. Brian Fonseca, because you do a lot of boxing stuff. Brian Fonseca NY, that's with a Y in it. You can find me at Ethan J. Skolnick, although not very often. And also at 5 Reasons Sports, very often, all day long. We're going to talk about 5 NBA topics, and then we're going to go from 1 to 5 on it. Okay, so in other words, how likely we think something is going to happen or how much we agree. It's a pretty simple concept. We will get it down sometime by the year 2029. So we're going to start with the Miami Heat because we know that's what a lot of you want to talk about. Before we do, though, I do want to mention great sponsor here of this episode and of everything else that we do, which is our friends over at Prize Picks. You can use that code 5 FIVE to get $50 in free lineups. Again, if you see another code on there, get rid of it, add ours. And you can use that code again to get $50 in free lineups. They'll be right there on the Explore page, and it is legal in the state of Florida. And by the way, in the state of New York, where Brian is, although you got to play it a little bit differently up there. All right, let's get to it. Let's put 5 on it. The state of the Miami Heat right now. Bam Adebayo, Brian, seems to think that we're underrating his team, or at least that Dwayne Wade is underrating his team. I made a case, before I get to the 5 on it part, I made a case on the last podcast I just did with Brady that it's like sometimes, and I think this Heat team has a ceiling. Like, I don't think this Heat team is going anywhere beyond maybe the first round. But it does seem like sometimes they just want to be noticed or matter. And I kind of feel like having Amazon do that game and having Dwayne and UD there basically holding the current players accountable meant something. It's like, oh, yeah, all right. We know you talk about all the old Heat teams. You're bringing back the 2006 team, obviously the 20-year anniversary. We talk about the big 3 teams. Oh, by the way, we're still here. We're playing. We're barely above 500. We've been fairly mediocre for the past 3 years. But yeah, okay, it's great if you guys still care about us. And like Dwayne kind of calling out Bam, being playful with Bam, but that happens a lot. But also Dwayne talking to Tyler about the late game offense. I don't think this is going to mean anything long term, but I just think, I don't know, maybe that's why they got up for it in that game against Houston on Saturday.
I think if they want to quote unquote matter, win then. Like that's really it. Stop being in the play-in, which Bam has also ranted about coincidentally, in terms of thinking the team is better than they've shown. And he should think that. Why would you not? Especially if you're the leader of a team, you should absolutely think that. A lot of people disagreed and let it be known, like, hey, big dog, like I don't know if you've seen your roster. Like a lot of people were just kind of clowning him, but at the same time, like, yeah, I don't fault him for thinking that. I thought that they were better than projected before the season, which is basically 36.5, 37.5 wins. I was like, this is at least a 40-win team. And I think there's a world where this is a 45-win team, which by the way is still on the table. I think it's more likely that they're 43, 42-ish, but that's an upgrade from last year, as a matter of fact. They're probably gonna sniff the where the finals team was in the regular season, even though that regular season was the team that underperformed. But this team is fine. They had a nice national TV spot at a time where nobody else had been playing basketball except the Hornets, who just beat the Blazers, and that game started earlier. That game was pretty much wrapped up by the time, or fully wrapped up, I think, by the time the Heat actually got started with the Rockets. I think the team is, they kind of are what they are. Maybe they'll get to 6. We can talk about that briefly, but they'll probably be locked into the play-in again. They have a cornerstone. They have a head coach who's never going anywhere, regardless of how many people seem to want him fired. or want him to change. Like it's just not gonna happen. You guys know who you root for. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Something to be said for stability, right? There's like something like you know what your
They're the
address is,
NBA's.
what home you're going back to.
Before
Right.
people were calling them the Steelers, I was calling them the Steelers, and this was years ago. Like Spoelstra
Well, the
is
difference between them
NBA
and the
Mike
Steelers,
Tomlin.
Brian, though, is the Steelers developed a culture of getting rid of a player a year too early, a year early, and the Heat don't do that ever. And I'll get to the 5 on it part of it here in a second. I mean,
I don't
look,
know if they
if
have an Antonio Brown on the roster. To be fair,
no, but there were a lot of guys. There were Mike Wallace and a whole bunch of guys that the Steelers did that with. Joey Porter. All of them ended up with the Dolphins, at
Santonio
least
Holmes.
for a year or two. Santonio Holmes, yeah, the whole bunch of them. Uh, if you look at the Heat situation right now, it's funny because, like you said, they're going to end up exceeding Vegas's expectations. They've got so many games with Brooklyn left. Like they got one starting, they got one on Tuesday. Like Brooklyn and Washington are still there on the schedule to be picked off. So like they're being handed wins. Of course, they didn't take the wins they were handed by Sacramento, Utah, and Indiana. They lost 3 games to tanking teams, including a couple of those at home. So I guess there's no guarantee of anything, but they should win those games. And they've beaten, look, and this is where I'm going to put this number to you here. They've beaten Detroit, Denver. I know Jokic got hurt in the game, but they beat Denver, Detroit, Oklahoma City, New York, and Houston. So they've gotten at least one against the best teams in the league this year. They can't beat Orlando to save their lives. They can't beat Toronto to save their lives. They just got torched by Philadelphia and Milwaukee. Both of those results were predictable. So, I mean, there's
against Boston also, which matters.
Yeah, well, they're not good against the Celtics. Well, if you could end games with the Celtics after the third quarter, that'd be fine. But other than the fourth quarter has been trouble. So look, they're limited in terms of their upside, but they have shown that on their best night, and I know why Bam's clinging to that. But if you said before the year they're going to win 43 games, they're going to develop some of the young players, and they're going to get the 6. I think most Heat fans would have taken that as long as the development was coming. So let me get to the question here. And I know this plays into another topic we're going to have. Are they going to get to the 6? Put a 5 on it. Can they get to the 6? Like right now, they are. What are they? I mean, they're actually like almost as close to the 10 as they were to the 6. So it really could go either way, as our friends say, CGEW. But if you look at the Eastern Conference right now, coming into Monday's play, they are a game and a half behind Philadelphia for 6, but they don't have the tiebreaker against the Sixers. But now Embiid is hurt. We're going to transition into that. Toronto, they are 3.5 behind Toronto. They have lost both games to Toronto, both at home. They have 2 road visits to Toronto. So I don't think they're catching Toronto. So forget the 5. Harden's going to play through the injury. They weren't catching Cleveland anyway. So you're looking at, can they jump Orlando, hold off Atlanta, which is 3-0 with Kuminga. They hold off Orlando, Atlanta, and Charlotte. Both those teams are better in their last 10 than the Heat are, as is Milwaukee.
Good luck holding off Charlotte.
Okay, so I'll ask you. I'll put 5 on it. What are the chances that they get to 6?
2. I was going to say 3. 3 is too high. Now they have 3 games against the Wizards left. 2 against Brooklyn, as you mentioned. 1 against Milwaukee. Maybe Giannis is there for that. We'll see.
I think Giannis gonna be back sooner rather than later. You know what? We should flip out the Philadelphia topic and do the Milwaukee topic because I think it's more interesting. But okay, so we'll fold Philly into this. I say 2. You're right. There are 5 wins there. Should be.
Maybe they play to their competition. So I don't know if Jameer Watkins is going to go crazy against the Heat. People don't even know who that is.
Any Jameer could go crazy against them. Just pick a Jameer. It's somebody that we haven't seen before or heard about. So they're going to give up. Okay, let's say they go 5-0 though. That gets them to 37. I think they're going to end up at 42. Okay, so we're saying at 42 that would be going. That would be going what 10 and that would be 10 and 11 the rest of the way. They should be better than that. I'm going to say they go 12-9 the rest of the way with those 5 games. They end up at 44, it is funny. That is the same record they had in the year they went to the finals. You're right.
The Pistons had 44 last year and were the 6th seed.
Okay.
So that's
So what do we
probably
think?
the
Combine it
marker.
with Philadelphia. What has to happen is Philly has to drop out, right? Like that's what has to happen while the Heat don't get picked off by Atlanta or Charlotte. And while the Heat pass Orlando, and they have to pass Orlando, they have one more game left with Orlando, but they have to pass Orlando because they've lost the tiebreaker to Orlando. So
Well, the issue is holding off Charlotte, and people see that and be like, "Oh, it's the Hornet." They're 26-14 when Brandon Miller, and LaMelo Ball play. They started off 4-14 this season, and since then they're 26-17 if my math is right. And also with Musa Diabate, the record is even better because he missed a few games. Charlotte is like a sneaky dark horse to potentially go up to 6. I don't think they will. I think they'll probably be 7-8 in that play-in spot. But their win pace recently, like basically post November, it's better than the Heat's. Like,
and the Heat
better.
go there. That's a big game. The Heat go there this week.
They're 30-31. They haven't even been 500 yet, but they've been number 1 in net ratings since like the beginning of January or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So like right now they're 10, but they're only 3.5 behind the Sixers, and they're only 2 games behind the Heat. So yeah, that's a big game. Like that's the one that I'd be more nervous about trying to hold off more than Orlando, who's without Franz and injured, and Atlanta's Atlanta. So I know that they've been playing better lately, but and they also don't have their pick, so they're not incentivized to go completely.
No, Atlanta's trying to win. But did you see the number on Atlanta that's crazy? Is and I forgot who posted, but it's the guy who covers them regularly. KJ posted this. KJ Chenard. He posted I think they've scored one more point than they've allowed this year, and they're at 500 again. That team, you want to talk about the Heat having a magnet to 500. Atlanta, for years, it's like their points for and allowed, no matter who's in there, Trey, no Trey, Jalen Johnson, they are it's a magnet to the middle. The Heat are jealous that they can't be as much of a magnet. I'm going to say 2 on the Miami Heat getting to 6. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hope, because I agree with you, Charlotte becomes a bit of a problem there.
I don't think Philly's going to fall that far either. I'd be a little surprised if that happens, even with Embiid and Paul George out.
I think they might. Embiid's been really good lately, so that would be. I think you may be right. I think Charlotte may end up grabbing the 6, passing Orlando and Miami, and then Philly drops out. We'll see. But I'm going to say the Heat. I'm going to give them a 2, 3 at the most. All right, let's get to the next topic though. I want to get to Milwaukee here before the break, and then we'll talk about Boston. So the Bucks had a stretch where they won 8 out of 10 without Giannis, 7 out of 9, 8 out of 10. Backcourt playing really well, Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. They bring in Cam Thomas, and then they hit the wall. They lost. They got blown out by Toronto, but then after a win, the Knicks destroyed them. They couldn't stop Brunson at the point of attack, and then they scored 8 points in the fourth quarter against the Bulls. They're the only team this year to score fewer than 10 in a quarter. They lost Buzelis. But they missed 17 straight shots. It wasn't about the defense. They missed 17 straight
27-0 run by Chicago.
Yeah, 27-0 run. Okay, Giannis, Doc is being cryptic about all of this stuff. I think Doc's done a terrible job, by the way, but whatever. He's being cryptic about all this stuff, about when Giannis is coming back. He needs to play 5-on-5. No, he doesn't need to play 5-on-5. They are incentivized, I think, to make the playoffs, play in now. Like, right? You agree with that before we get to the chances that they actually do so?
Incentivized, yes.
Why do you say that? I'm curious your view on it, because they could get a lottery. I mean, they could get a top 10 pick if they just decide to just let this thing go, right?
I don't think Giannis cares about the lottery, and I think they're still at the whims of whatever they think Giannis wants. I think it's kind of that simple.
Right. Okay. I'm with you. I think that's it. I think it's about them. They have to prove to him that with him, they can at least get in a competitive first round series. I think that to me, that's the baseline. And I think it's really about the guards. I think if Rollins, I know we don't trust Cam Thomas, but if Rollins, Cam Thomas, and Kevin Porter Jr. can show Giannis that they can at least supplement his scoring, because hold on. Sorry. To me, the defense has been the biggest problem without him because I've watched them a little bit lately. They don't defend without him. Once he'll shore up the defense. If they can find a couple of guys to score with him, he might be convinced to give this a shot, even if they don't have a lottery pick after the season, because they do have 3 tradable picks to go get somebody else to help him. So let me ask you to put 5 on it. Chances that the Bucks not only make the play-in, but get out of it. Get to a first-round series against Detroit or I guess it would be Boston, most likely.
1.
Okay.
So they're 3 games. They're 3 games behind Charlotte, right? I don't think they're very good. They're 3 games behind Charlotte right now. 3.5 behind Atlanta. 5 behind the Heat and the Magic, who are now tied for 7. Obviously, Orlando has the tiebreaker, but I just laid out the way Charlotte's been playing. Like I don't know if people believe me, but trust me, it's not just because I had their overs in the preseason. I have like 7 Hornets futures. 2 of which already cashed, and
yes.
I think at least 4 out of the other 5 will. But I think this team is legitimate, and they've proven that they could at least be a playoff threat. And I was on them before Bill Simmons. I just want to put that out there. The other aspect of this, though, is they have a lot of catching up to do, and the more Giannis sits, the less likely it's going to be. If you told me Giannis is coming back tomorrow, then maybe I could entertain them getting into the play-in, but it's like who drops all the way out? Because none of those teams want to lose. Orlando, at the very least, even though they're shorthanded still, they're competitive. Miami's obviously going to be competitive. They're dying to be be like they only want to be competitive despite what their fan base seemingly wants. and then with Atlanta, not incentivized to tank. Kuminga's actually helping. We'll see if they can continue to just win some games. And then Charlotte's been good, like legitimately good for 2 months. So I think even a little bit longer than that. So I don't think Milwaukee's catching either of those teams. I'm gonna say 1, which is to say like it's not impossible, but I just don't see it.
I think it's 2. I get what you're saying. I just think that once he gets back, he is going to terrorize everybody. I really do. Like as long as the calf is not re-injured, and they got to be careful with that. As Tatum, and we're going to talk about Tatum in a second, as Tatum and Halliburton well know. But I think he's gonna come back on fire. And there are some scoring options there. Doc won't play some of the young guys, but I look at those teams. I think Atlanta is one they can pick off. That would be the one of all of them. I don't think Orlando drops all the way out. Franz is coming back in a couple of weeks, although they can't keep Suggs on the court. And, Bane's giving them consistent production, but they're still better with Ballo. Now doesn't play when he does. At least the on-off numbers suggest that. He had a bad game against Detroit after he had a pretty good road trip. He played well against the 2 LA teams, especially defensively. I think that Atlanta is the one that they can pick off. They have a big home stretch here. They got to maximize it though, and that means he's got to be back this week. I think if he's back this week, I think they get it.
They have 5 back-to-backs left. That's the other thing.
Right. They're a little deeper than they were before. If it wasn't for the Doc factor, I would say it's a 2.5. Maybe I'll put it at 1.5 because of him. But I also think if they get in a play-in situation, I do trust them to get out of it. As long as they don't get the 10. If they're 10, they got to go on the road. So they sort of have to get to 9. It's going to be hard to get to 9, but then they have to go on the road in the 10-9 game. But I don't – look, Miami don't want to see them. Miami doesn't want to see. Miami just got torn apart by their guards without Giannis. That's not – the guard matchup is problematic for them because their guards are quick. And Miami doesn't handle quick guards particularly well. And there's the whole – I just did a whole podcast on this, so I'm not going to really get into it. But I don't think Hero and Powell can play another minute together the whole rest of the season. If I were Spo, I wouldn't even – he's going to stagger them the whole game and then throw them together in the last 6 minutes. It's going to be disastrous. But he can't. You can't leave them on the floor together.
If I were the Heat, and I said this in the Discord, if I were the Heat, they're not going to do this. But Powell's week to week, it's like, okay, cool. So I could shut Norman Powell down
right
for the season.
Not going to do it.
Just sign him to an
Norm's
affordable.
not right. Not unless you've paid him first, right? Because see, I think Norm would be open to coming off the bench. I can't speak for him, but I feel like he might be open to that if it's contributing to winning, if he's paid already.
I would sign him. I would sign him, but not like a 4-year, 130. No, nothing crazy like that.
Two for 55 to me.
Yeah, even 2 for 60, or
and then you're haggling over the player option or the team option.
Yeah, really. For the 3rd year, because he'll want a 3rd year because of his age. But it's like you could, that's also a tradable contract. But you let
and then Tyler you bring him back next year with Tyler so they can again split the 48 minutes.
No, or you just let Tyler try to build.
Tyler's
back
coming
up.
back, but Tyler is coming back until the year 2055. Tyler's under contract for next year. Tyler's coming back as of right now.
If I were like really, they're not going to do this because they want to compete at all levels and they want Norm to do that. But like, I would kind of shut Norm down and play Tyler for the rest of the season.
Isn't this the same injury Norm had last year?
And then trade Tyler in the summer when he maybe can get you anything back. I'm not even going to say boost his value a ton because
no, but this is the one benefit of this is that Tyler's going to get back on the court and have he's going to have an extended run where he's leaned on for 6 weeks. I mean, this is really it's back on him and Bam. Really, that's where we're right back where we started.
You just have to hope he doesn't suck in the playoffs. Then maybe you can get something for him because he'll be an expiring contract next year. But
no, I know.
Yeah,
they're not going to shut Norm down.
No.
They're going to be, and Norm ain't going to let himself be shut down.
Never gonna
if I were him, I wouldn't let him be. I wouldn't let myself be shut down either, unless you're shutting him down by saying, here's 3 for 90, and just take a seat, and we'll roll this back next year. But they're not going to do that either. If a player is capable of competing, they're going to have him compete. And again, Spo's going to put 2 of them on the floor in the last 6 minutes to stare at each other and kind of decide who's supposed to take, who's going to guard that guard that just went by both of them. We know where this is headed. Anyway, why did we end up back on the Heat? All right, I'm saying Milwaukee. I'm saying it's a 2. Okay, together. All right, all right. There you go. All right, Celtics. Okay, we'll get to this one, and then actually I've got some. This is an off-air thing. This is how the sausage is made. I can continue going right now, so we're gonna keep going. Okay, Celtics. Jason Tatum is coming back soon. Bill Simmons has put it out there that maybe by this Friday. I saw Tatum had a video saying he's not coming back to be a role player. That would scare the hell out of me if I was a Celtic fan. Just the way that he sort of views these things. Not that you want him to be a role player, but the team has a pretty good vibe right now. We've seen this before. By the way, players come back and it doesn't work out so well. Ewing used to do it in New York, if you recall, and sometimes that's where the whole Ewing theory comes from, although in reverse. Zoe came back in the 2003-2004 season. And they got blitzed in the playoffs by Charlotte. I'm not saying they're better without Tatum, but I also didn't think they'd miss Tatum that much because I'm not the biggest Tatum guy, and that's proven true. So put 5 on it, okay? Jason Tatum coming back puts the Celtics in the conference final.
Ooh. I'm going to say, I'll say 3. Like, I'm neutral on that one. I think it's a 4-team race in the Eastern Conference, and they're one of the 4. The others being obviously Detroit, Cleveland, and New York. Don't love how they've matched up with the Knicks this year. We'll see about the other 2. But I don't necessarily think any of those teams is markedly better than the other, like a lot better than the other. So it'll come down to inevitably matchups and also health because the NBA has never been more like the NFL, where the healthiest good team is just going to win the title. And that's just where we're at. But maybe it's rocky for a little bit once he comes back and they're fitting him in. Bill also mentioned that he thinks Baylor Shireman, and I agree with this, he thinks Baylor Shireman is kind of like holding Tatum's spot right now. Like they're using him as a Tatum facsimile until he comes back. I think that makes a ton of sense because I was wondering why the increase in minutes for him specifically, but it does make sense when you frame it in that way. As far as their schedule coming up, there's a decent couple home stretches, and they have, the Wizards coming up, for example. There's an interesting game here, not even tonight against the Bucks, but there's an interesting game this week where they played Charlotte at home, and I'm curious to see how that goes, given what I just said about Charlotte and how they've played. Maybe Tatum comes back that Friday against Dallas. That's the one that Bill put out there. And then they have some road games coming up right after that next week against Cleveland, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City, which is fun. 3 games in 5 nights. I'll put it at a 3. And I think for all of those teams, I would probably say 3. I think the one that I feel best about for the conference finals, believe it or not, might be Detroit. Just because they have the highest defensive ceiling out of everybody, even though people say, oh, they don't have experience. Well, they went to the playoffs last year and were probably a campaign quarter and a Jaden Ivey healthy away from beating the Knicks in that first round series. Like the margins were very thin. They outscored the Knicks in games 2 through 6. So, and the Knicks, they have the most talent, but they're a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like they did what they did against the Spurs on Sunday. And that's one of their best defensive performances of the season. And then they'll go out in another game and allow 118 points or 120 points, and their offense can never get going. And then they'll look like a team that doesn't belong in the playoffs. Like they're very hot and cold. So you don't know what Knick team you're going to get from night to night.
I hate to be so equivocal here and agree with you, but I have them at 3. But I would have them at 3 whether Tatum came back or not. I don't know that it makes a dramatic difference one way or the other. Like, I don't think he's going to tank their chances, but I also don't think he elevates them to the degree that some are assuming, because they have found a play style without him. And sometimes you find a play style without somebody, you can go just as far as you can as when the guy comes back. It's mostly because of the lack of trust I have in the Knicks. Yes, that's where it comes from. I don't think the Knicks are losing a first-round series. Mostly because I don't think they'll get the Bucks and Giannis. I would be curious if somehow the Bucks got that 7 seed and the Knicks were in the 2 seed, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the Bucks are going to get the Celtics are going to get the 2 seed. But I think if that happened, I would be curious to see how the Knicks handled Giannis in a playoff series. I don't love that. Towns or are you what do you do? Or are you OG? I guess would probably get that assignment for the most part. A little bit of Bridges,
not Bridges. Probably some combination. Bridges has been not. I mean, he had a good game against the Spurs. He's not been good this year at the point of attack. Mitchell Robinson, also, but
physicality.
I mean, the Bucks though. I mean, Brunson particularly destroys that backcourt regardless of who's out there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. We just did see that. That's a good point.
That's not the one. And then right now, if they're the 2-3, see, I think the Knicks have to avoid the 1 seed. Avoid the 4-5 is what I mean. Because if you're in the 4-5, then you're matched up with Detroit in round 2 more than likely, if you even beat the 5, because the 5 could be like Philly maybe,
right?
Or perhaps the Raptors, who they've had a better time handling this year. So they need to get the 2 or 3 and play Boston in the second round. And you would also then avoid the Milwaukee wild card. You're more than likely getting in the first round a Philly or Orlando, which I just said Philly could be. Philly's a team I wouldn't want to see in round 1. Like they're kind of like the ultimate dark horse to me in the Eastern Conference. I don't think they're a dark horse to get all the way to the finals, but if they're a 6 seed, I don't want to be the 3.
No, but they're going to max out in the second round. We know that. They always do.
But I think they're going to be dangerous in that first round.
Yeah, and then
Philly against the Knicks or the Cavs or the Celtics. They're going to be dangerous.
We'll get the daily Embiid reports. I'm going to say 3, but I say it could go again either way. I'm going to rapid fire these in the Western Conference here. You gave me 2 others. Well, let's do 1. Denver.
Concern level.
So we're going the opposite way on this. Honestly, I ain't that concerned.
Really?
I'm going to say 2. As long as they have him. I just, it's I like what's happened with some of their young players this year. I understand that they've had a couple guys that haven't fit quite as well. Murray does tend to pick up his game in the postseason. You look at some of the losses lately. I mean, I don't know. What are we looking at here? The loss to Minnesota. I mean, that's been a bad matchup for them. So I don't read that much into that. They were competitive with Oklahoma City. Could have won that game. Took it to overtime. Beat Boston. I mean, the Golden State result was weird. They scored 157 against Portland. Then a 1-point loss to the Clippers. I mean, I don't think this is to me. If they get in and they're the 4. You don't think they? I mean, I guess you want to avoid Oklahoma City as long as you can, right? But I don't.
You want to avoid Minnesota too. if you're
Yeah.
them. Minnesota just figures shit out against them.
Okay, so right now they're the 5. So right now they're stuck in a 4-5 matchup. The team I don't trust that I think is going to drop out, I think Houston drops behind at least one of those two.
4-2 in their last 6. They've been better lately, but they weren't looking good before that, and I don't know how long it's going to last.
The
They also
Nuggets are
didn't
one game
they
behind the
didn't look great
Rockets
against the
with
Heat,
3.
by the way. I'll say
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah. No, they didn't.
The Heat
One
defended
game
well in that game.
behind one game behind the Rockets. They're 2 back in the loss column. I don't know. To me, as long as they get to 4 and they either have home court against Minnesota, I don't like that matchup. You're right. They got to get to 3. That would help a lot. But they got one game to make up with 21 to play. I don't know. I'm not that concerned.
They have the toughest strength of schedule left, according to
Are they?
Tankathon.
Let me ask this question: Are they better off dropping behind the Lakers and being the 6?
Probably. It depends where Minnesota is. Like if Minnesota's 3, they should not want to be 6. But you want to avoid obviously OKC in the first round, but also in the second round rather. But also, they did play OKC really well last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, they did.
So and it's hard to repeat.
And I think they're better. Murray's healthier.
They need Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson back. Peyton Watson looked like a most improved player candidate.
Right. No, it
took
him 3 years, but he's getting there.
And Gordon may be back soon. He's supposed to be reevaluated one of these weeks.
They need one of the 2 of them back at least. But yeah, I kind of think they'd be better off falling to 6. And I still would like their chances to get to the conference finals if that happened. Because if they end up in the 6, then let's say Houston does hold off the Timberwolves, which I'm sure Denver would be rooting for that. I like Denver in a series against Houston. And then the next series would ostensibly be nobody's beating the Suns, Warriors, Clippers. None of those teams beating the Spurs, right? We agree on that in a 2-7 situation. No, certainly not the Blazers. And the Grizzlies have dropped out.
If the Suns were healthy, I think that series is more interesting than some people.
Yeah, but they're not. We got the Brooks thing. So
Brooks could be back around then, and Devin Booker, according to Gambo, Devin Booker might be back this week.
Okay.
So
I still don't think they're beating them. So you've got. So basically, the Nuggets could get to the conference finals. They'd have to start on the road against the Rockets. It's a 6. They'd have to start on the road against the Rockets. Start on the road against the Spurs. They have a lot more experience than Spurs. Man, the NBA wants that series. Spurs Nuggets would be fun.
Yeah, unless the Rockets drop out, of course, in which case,
You're right. But then let the Thunder deal with the Wolves in a potential 1-4 second round matchup. I'm not concerned. My level of concern with the Nuggets is what would Jokic's level of concern? Jokic's level of concern would be greater if one of his horses didn't finish. I'm saying 1.5 at the most. They're fine. Drop to 6 or get to 3, one or the other. And yeah, I think that's where we're at.
I'm gonna say 4 actually. So I'm gonna go on the opposite side of the spectrum here, just because of the injuries. Like I don't know if Aaron Gordon's hamstring is gonna get right. Even when he comes back, you're gonna have to monitor it. Peyton Watson was playing really well. Now he's hurt. Cam Johnson has not worked out to the degree that I thought it would in terms of a hand and glove fit. And he's just not really just playing well overall in totality, not giving them the effective spacing that I thought he would.
Yeah, I was wrong about that one.
He gets hurt too. That's the other piece of it. And then, like, I really think they could have used the buyout guy, but Chris Middleton didn't request the buyout because he would have been perfect. He actually would have been like for. Look,
are you surprised that so few guys got buyouts before the deadline?
That has to be tied to the CBA.
Right,
it has to be a CBA thing. I'm surprised Middleton's the one that I'm surprised he didn't leave Dallas, but
I thought Middleton might try to find his way back to Milwaukee, but then I think they would have taken him. But
I would have wanted to see him in Denver. But yeah, I'm a 4 just because like it's health mixed with they could see Minnesota.
Just avoid Minnesota and they're fine.
They could see Minnesota or OKC early, like the way this is sort of playing out, unless they go on a run here with a tough schedule remaining. Like they feel like a second round exit.
They
right
have
now.
the best player in the world. I'm not concerned. We're gonna argue about that one. All right, last one. Okay, Tankathon standings. I'm gonna give it to you. This is gonna be our 5th one every single week that we do this. Now it's all anybody cares about, really, in most of the NBA. Here's your Tankathon standings right now. Right now, Sacramento is a game and a half up or down on Indy, 14 and 48. Indy, of course, needs to keep a top 4 slot to keep their pick. They're doing a good job of it. They got 15 wins. They're 3 games clear of Utah, 15 and 46. Brooklyn, 15 and 45. That's a team the Heat are seeing on Tuesday. Washington, 16 and 43. Utah needs to be in the top 7? Is that right? Top 7? Keep their pick?
Sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. They're 18 and 42. So right now they're safe. I think they're going to stay safe. New Orleans, of course, gave up their first round pick unprotected to Atlanta for Derek Queen, who they're playing right now behind DeAndre Jordan. They've got them they're in the 6th spot, so they don't keep their pick. So Atlanta's going to be well positioned to again finish 500 for the next 10 years. But they're in this right now. Technically, they're in the 6th spot. Dallas 21 wins, Memphis 23. Chicago made a mistake by winning last night against Milwaukee. They're at 25. Milwaukee's at 26. All right, here's a level of concern for any of the top 4 teams, bottom 4 teams: Sacramento, Indiana, Brooklyn, or Washington winning too many games, and either Utah or New Orleans ending up in the top 4. Level of concern for any winning too many games.
I'm not that concerned, actually. Now that I'm looking at this,
it's pretty locked in, isn't it? It looks to me
Utah is the one that probably has the best chance to get into this, but it's like, who's gonna win the games?
Right. They benched everybody. I mean, Jaren, they benched. Keyshawn George hardly plays. Now Laurie's got a situation. They're good at tanking too. They're really good at it, and they're motivated both ways. They're motivated. No, but they have to keep losing though. That's the thing. They have to keep.
The Pacers haven't shut down really anybody yet, and they're one I'm watching to
They have. Siakam is the one to watch, but they're playing a lot of
Nembhard too, because he's been dinged up and been a game time decision, and
they're playing a lot of Walker, and he's putting up numbers, but that's helping contribute to losing. They rotate in. They've got so many two-way guys right now that they're overplaying all their two-way guys. I mean, Rick, I think Rick I'm just waiting figure out a way to lose enough.
I'm just waiting to see what happens with with Nembhard and Siakam in particular. When do they decide to pull the plug? And hopefully it's after the fantasy playoffs, because I have Nembhard on my team.
No, I understand that. I know a lot of people are in that position. Well, with Siakam, though, there's this weird position that they've been playing Siakam a ton, but they got fined anyway. So it's like they got to wait another 10 games before they really do it. First thing, Sacramento has no chance to win too many games. They're just awful. They're
terrible. I don't want Peterson or Debanza to go there at all. But
they don't want to go there either. But yeah, especially Peterson. But Sacramento is awful. The one that would worry me a little bit is Washington. There's enough material still on that roster, and they play hard, that they might win too many games. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But the others, I have a very low level of concern. I mean, Carlisle's such a good coach that I kind of felt like he would win some games by accident, but now he's managing this thing perfectly. So I think they're fine. All right, so that's what we got. That's our 5 on it today. Went 40 minutes. That's where we're at. 40 minutes, which is what is it? That's more minutes than Pascal Siakam should play the rest of the season combined. Anyway, follow him at Brian Fonseca NY. Follow all of this on the 5 Reasons on NBA feed. We might put this on 5 on the floor as well, just so you guys get a taste of it as we go around the NBA more consistently going forward. Have a good one, everybody.